I've just been informed via email that it sounds like my lesson didn't record the other day. So here we go again. Algebra 1, 1.7 distributive property. How do you use the distributive property? When we are taking a look at this problem that you see in front of them, 7 times a plus 5, the distributive property means we're going to distribute the 7 times a, then the 7 times the 5. And they show it this way, 7 times a, 7 times 5. When we simplify an expression using the distributive property, what we really want to look at is writing that without the parenthesis. So if we now want to show the area of a rectangle using the distributive property, we can think of this as being the x length, and this length as being 5. We don't know what x is, so it could be any length. Here again, it's shown without the parenthesis, 8x plus, in this case, it would be 40. So it asks you to draw a rectangle. So if we're looking at drawing a rectangle to illustrate the distributive property, 5 would end up being our side length times the rectangle would have a length of x plus 2. So we would then have 5 times x plus 5 times 2. Again, you can use a parenthesis for multiplication, or you can use that dot. Try and stay away from the x. The key thing with distributive property is that it lets us simplify expressions by getting rid of the parenthesis. Here you see the distributive property. A times the quantity b plus c means a times b plus a times c. So here we are multiplying a times each term inside the parenthesis, and you can see, as you look at this, that we can distribute it to get that answer. Sometimes we look at our order of operations, and if we have a problem where we have numbers inside the parentheses, we can follow the order of operations. 3 plus 4 gives us 7, and 7 times 2, as we look at that, gives us 14. But if we wanted to use the distributive property, we could, and as you see in this part, you take the 2 times the 3 plus the 2 times the 4. We're distributing the 2. 6 plus 8 still gives us a solution of 14. As we simplify our expressions, that means add your like terms and get rid of parentheses. So as we look at this first problem, 3 times the quantity, x plus 8. We would have 3 times x, or 3x, plus 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is going to give us 24, so 3x plus 24. As we look at problem 2, you're distributing the negative 4. Even though it's behind the parenthesis, behind that, you are multiplying negative 4 first times 2y. Now here's where it gets tricky for some people. We might want to think of this as plus the opposite, subtracting. Our subtraction changes to adding, and we would then take our negative 4 still times negative 3. Now, some people don't like to think of it that way, and I'll show you how else you can look at that. We would then have negative 8y simplified plus 12. Someone else said, well, Mrs. Thompson, can I think of it this way? Taking negative 4 times 2y, and then leave it as a minus. But then remember, you have to put the negative 4 times the 3. What's going to happen here? This is going to be the opposite of negative 4. The opposite of negative 4 is positive, and you will still end up with 8y plus 12. If we are simplifying, I'd like you to give these a try. Try and pause the video if you would for just a couple seconds, and then start it up again as we look at these 4 expressions. I am going to go through them with you. In the first one, 2 times y plus 2 times 4. And again, I would probably use a parenthesis instead of the dot, just because it looks like a decimal for some of you. 2y plus 8. What about question 2? We are distributing the 12. If the arrow helps you, put that. So we have 12 times 3 minus 12 times 1/6 h. Notice I wrote the fraction instead of with the slanted bar. I kind of have a horizontal line. And the main reason I did this is that as I look at this problem, I want to simplify my fraction here. And I know that 6 goes into 6 once and into 12 twice. And my answer, 12 times 3, gives us 36. minus still 2 times 1h would give me 2h. If you haven't paused the video, please try the other two as you're looking at those in your notes. Again, as we are looking at that, we are taking 3 and distributing it across. And here we are multiplying and distributing the 1/5 to both of those. In the first one, 3 times 0.4, well, we know 3 times 4 is 12. This is going to be 1.2 for a solution. Plus, we are then taking 3 times the 1.1z, which would give us a 3.3z. 1/5 times 5. Again, if I write my fraction this way, 1/5 times 5x minus 1/5 times 15. As I look at this one again, I want to simplify. 5 goes into 5, 1 over 1. I'm left with 1x. Can you simply write that without the lead coefficient 1 as x? You may. 5 goes into 15 3 times, minus 3. So either x minus 3 or 1x minus 3. I know some of you may not love fractions, but we are asked to look at distributing and writing it as an equivalent fraction. What sum or difference is equivalent to this fraction? So here's our fraction. At this point, we're looking at this whole quantity, 3x minus 10 divided by 5. When we simplify this out, we are going to think of it as 1/5. Remember, out in front, there's a 1. So 1/5 times 3x minus 10. As we distribute that, we are looking at 3x over 5. How did I get that? 3 times 1 gives us 3x. Minus, and if you want to multiply it out, 10/5. Well, 10/5 seems to simplify easiest to 2. So our answer would be 3/5 x in simplest form minus 2. I would like you right now to try this next problem, and we will look at that in class. So 15 plus 6x divided by 7. We want to try and get rid of having it over just the one denominator. So first multiply by your fraction, and then if we can simplify. This one probably can't be too simplified as you look at it. The other thing that's really important is that -1, multiplication property -1, makes everything the opposite. Notice -1 times -5, positive 5. -1 times 6, -6. -1 times 0, still 0. Remember, 0 is neither positive or negative, so when we think of multiplying to get its opposite, we're not going to have an opposite. If we try these, what does this mean? It really means -1 times 2x plus y. Remember, as you multiply by -1, it changes everything to the opposite. So as we look at this, we are going to have a -2x plus a -2y. Taking no -2y, just -1y, my fault. In this next one, you got to be careful, very tricky, -1. So we want to think of this negative as being -1. We then have -3 minus 4u. Now remember, this changes everything in the parenthesis to the opposite. So if we're changing everything in the parenthesis to the opposite, some people like to look at it as 3 plus 4u. And if you think about that, what you're doing is negative times a negative becomes a positive 3. -1 times, someone said, well, it's a positive 4. Plus a -4 gives us a positive 4u. It is your turn to try it with A, B, C, and D. So if you would please try multiplying by -1. We're going to also use the distributive property to do our mental math. Someone has said to me in the years past, mental math, I can do it in my head. But what we want to show is the distributive property. So 17 is very close to 20. So we're going to think of 17 as 20 minus 3. Now we can distribute. And in our head, we can multiply 5 times 20 quite easily. It gives us 100. Minus 5 times 3. Again, easy numbers to multiply if we know our facts. Minus 15. We should get a solution of 85. -8 times 31. Again, -8 times 31 is very close to 30. so 30 plus 1. Again, if we know our multiplication facts, we're going to take negative 8 times 30. 8 times 3 is 24. This will give us a negative 240. Next, we're going to go plus, and we have negative 8 times the 1. Remember, you are distributing. That means you have to put the negative 8 times both. Most common mistake is this will be left as just the 1. Plus negative 8 to get a negative 248. And if you want to plug it in your calculator to check if that's right, you can see that solution. You should try 3 and 4 right now so we can look at those very quickly in class. So setting it up in the same way, showing your steps, please, not just the answer. I know you could get the answer on your calculator. I want to see these steps as you are looking at the problems. Again, how do we use it in a real situation? Deli sandwiches cost $4.95. We want to buy 8 of them. Well, a nice way of thinking about this is $4.95 is very close to $5. 5 minus 5 cents times the 8 sandwiches. And again, if you think of this problem, 8 times 5, most of you would pretty easily come up with that solution of 40, minus 5 cents times 8. So if we're multiplying 5 cents times 8, that's going to be our 0.05 times 8. We would have 40 cents. $40 minus 40 cents gives us $39.60. Please try this right now with question number 2. Again, we'll look at it tomorrow in class. Simplifying. What we did yesterday was simply adding our like terms. Today, we're going to combine 2 steps. We are going to, as we look at the problems, distribute first, then add our like terms. So in this first one, we'd have 2 times 1x plus the 2 times 4. And I'm going to change it right away to plus a negative 3x. So that I have 2x plus 8 plus a negative 3x. As I'm looking at that, my like terms gives me a negative 1x plus 8. In this next problem, 2 times 2x, and as you start doing the problem, some of you are going to do this step in your head. 4x plus, I like drawing the arrow to remind me that I have to have 4, not 2. And again, plus negative 3 or minus 3. 4x plus 1. You could also try number 3 if you would like. Number 6, I don't think we tried, and if you need to pause the video, be really careful here. We have a subtraction. So the first part stays the same, x squared minus 6x minus 1. And again, I might change this to plus a negative 6x plus a negative 1. This is going to change everything in the parenthesis to the opposite. So I'm going to have plus instead of 3x squared, it is now negative 3x squared. Instead of negative minus 7x, opposite is positive 7x. Opposite of negative 1 plus 1. I can now add my like terms together. So please do that so you're ready for class tomorrow. Remember, key thing is a simplified expression has no like terms and no parentheses. Thanks and have a good day. I hope this recording you will be able to hear.